Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. It's Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here at WCNC. Welcome into Live Weather Impact. It is a Thursday evening, as I mentioned. Cool conditions. Fall is finally here. It is actually not super cold, but it's actually closer to normal. We've had such a warm fall that I think people are struck by the fact that it feels chilly. The average low this time of year is 47, so being in the 40s in the morning is definitely where we're supposed to be. But this morning, it was cooler than that. We're going to start with your weather impacts, though, because we've got a lot to talk about, actually, weather-wise. Chilly and cool for tomorrow. So we're talking frost in the morning. The weekend, highs only in the 60s, by the way. Morning lows in the 40s. And next week, that's the big story. We're going to talk a lot about this. Huge changes compared to what we've had recently. Let's focus on the forecast tonight. Sunset is coming up here any minute now, actually 6:39. So it's going to be dark here shortly. And once that sun goes down, the temperature is tumbling quick. We'll be down. I think this is a little too warm, actually. I think we'll be in the 30s quicker than this by tomorrow morning. And why do I say that? Because let's look at this morning. Normally, I don't like to show you history, but we'll talk about this morning. We had frost. I had viewers and followers commenting. We had frost in Cleveland County, parts of York County, certainly Gaston County. So anytime you're below 40 degrees, and here's the weird thing about frost. It doesn't have to be freezing. Freezing is 32 and lower. We all know that. That's a freeze warning. You can get frost between 33 and 38 degrees. That's the air temperature. You can get a cold surface where frost can form. So the air temperature might be 37, but the surface of your plants or your rooftop or your car top could have frost on it. And certainly that happened in many locations this morning. And because it was that cold already, I fully expect it. We will be just as cold tomorrow morning. And just to give you kind of an illustration of how frost works, frost, it happens at the surface. The air temperature is taken about 5 feet off the ground in a little sheltered thing that we call a Stevenson shelter. It's that kind of white box. That's where they put the thermometer. People often say the temperature is taken in the shade. It's actually taken in complete darkness because it's the air temperature, not the temperature of the sun. So when it's in that shelter, the temperature there could be 33 to 38 degrees. But if you've ever been outside with a clear sky, where there's radiational cooling, surfaces can cool down. Just like in the sun during the day, how a surface can get hotter than the air temperature, at night when there's clear skies and calm winds, an area in the open can actually cool quicker than the surrounding temperature. We call that radiational cooling. So that can happen to a rooftop, the roof of your car, and definitely plants. That's why plants closer to the house or under a tree, that actually a little bit of protection blocks the radiational cooling and keeps it warmer. Something else you can do tonight, make sure you load up on water. Water your plants heavily tonight because that will certainly help them retain some of the heat from today. So speaking of tonight's lows, I'm going with upper 30s. This would be by far the coolest night of the season so far for Charlotte. And 38 in Charlotte, if that's at the airport, certainly going to see some 34s and 35s in some of the neighborhoods around Charlotte, away from the uptown area where the urban heat island keeps them a little bit warmer. So if you have a wide open area in your yard where there's a garden or plants, that's likely going to see frost. Your roof will likely have some white rooftops coming up tomorrow morning in your neighborhood, so certainly cold enough for that to happen tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be just like today, sunny. The difference is we may never get to 70. We'll be in the 60s. So definitely a cool fall day, by far the coolest we've seen so far. Now, Tim and I are going to talk about this in a second, but Comet Lemon is still visible tonight. It is beginning to move a little bit in the night sky closer to the west. So the Big Dipper is still kind of a good reference point. There's another big constellation that's close to it, a big bright star called Arctus. It's kind of easier to see. You can't see it with the naked eye. Remember, use those binoculars, your telescope, your camera. That's the best way to see it. And just to give you a perspective, this was a shot I got last night. I'm going to try to head out there again tonight. This again was, I think, 15-second exposures, like 15 to 20 shots stacked. But you can see it through the camera lens pretty clearly if you zoom in on the right spot and let the camera do the work. It's much better than your eye. It can let a lot more light in, not just like your smartphone. So give it a look, because the next couple of nights it should look great. Technically visible into next week, but when you see my forecast, you're going to understand why you probably need to go see it here the next couple of nights, because it won't be, it'll be cloudy basically next week. Here's the bad news. On Thursdays, Tim and I talked about this. This is not a shock. We're in severe drought in the Charlotte metro. That includes most of York, Chester, Lancaster, Union, and southern Mecklenburg County. Most of Mecklenburg County north is in a moderate drought, and everybody else is abnormally dry. So there's 3 levels of drought in our area, and we're basically in all 3 of those right now. So that's the bad news. We expected it to get worse. That severe drought is pretty significant. But here's the good news. 5-day rainfall forecast, right? Look at all that rain. Now, that doesn't happen tomorrow, doesn't happen Saturday, doesn't happen Sunday. happens Monday, Tuesday. Look at those rain chances really start to ramp up as we go into early next week. And it could be several days of rain, which is exactly the kind of rain you want when you're in a drought. So what is this going to look like? Storm number 1 is coming from the southwest. So Monday, pretty soggy Monday. It's going to feel like a Monday. Lots of rain around, chilly in the mid-50s with rain. This will linger into Tuesday. We're going to see lighter rain, though, Tuesday into Wednesday. So the good news there, Charlotte FC home playoff game Tuesday. It's going to be wet, but probably not downpours, probably kind of misty, drizzly, but cold. Cold and wet is always kind of interesting. And then by Wednesday night into Thursday, I expect it to clear out, and that will set the stage for great weather for trick-or-treating on Halloween. So here's a kind of what's going to happen. When? Next Monday through Thursday, the impacts, chilly and wet commutes. That's the big story. Rain in the commute around here. It's just might as well snow sometimes, I think, with the drivers we have in our area. So wipers on, lights on, remember that. And just keep the rain gear handy and the jacket, probably an insulated rain jacket, because it'll be a chilly rain, as you'll see in the forecast coming up here momentarily. How much rain are we talking about? This is a great sign for the drought. 7-day rainfall forecast varies from about 1.5 inches to as high as 3 inches. And that's going to be stretched out over 3 or 4 days, so that's good. That's not a flood potential. That's not severe. That's exactly what you want in a drought. You don't want it all at once. You want a nice steady rain over several days. And right now, it looks like we're going to get that. Quick update on Melissa. We'll talk a lot about this with Tim here in a minute. But man, Jamaica, I had a viewer reach out there in Jamaica. They're leaving tomorrow. They're going to be fine. I said, as long as you get out before Friday. I would not want to be in Jamaica this weekend or early next week, because that's a category 3-4 storm that could be over parts of Jamaica for 3 or 4 days. That's a disaster waiting to happen. The aches and pains forecast, we bring this out every year when the pressure starts falling with these big low pressure systems. Notice next week with that low, the pressure dips. So if you have arthritis or an injury, you're going to start to feel it. The weekend forecast is great, though. This weekend, partly cloudy on Sunday, sunny on Saturday, 30s and 40s for lows, afternoon highs in the 60s. So kind of a true late October fall weekend. But when we look at your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day, we'll focus on this. Look at the cool down into next week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Highs in the 50s to low 60s with rain. That is going to be kind of miserable, but for a drought, that's like sight for sore eyes. That's exactly what we need right now. And I'll show you the 10-day forecast just so we can reveal Halloween. Hopefully this doesn't linger, because it should be gone by Thursday, late in the day, giving us better weather for Halloween next week.